So in some of my groups, we talk about the stages of change, and the stages of change is Prochaska and DeClimente, and they came up with this idea that as we go through a change in behavior, we're going to go through a certain process, and this is the stages of change. So the first stage of change is pre-contemplation. Pre meaning before, contemplating meaning think about. And so when we're in pre-contemplation, this is the denial stage. I don't have a problem, you have a problem. If you have a problem with me standing outside smoking, why'd you walk over here in the puff of smoke and start coughing? Take your ass back inside if you don't like it. Then we move into the contemplation stage. Something's going to have to happen to push us into that contemplation stage. In this contemplation stage, we're thinking about it. This is what we call the well, maybe stage. Maybe I do, but then again, maybe I don't. What this looks like is I might be running, and then I see somebody smoking a cigarette, and I'm out of breath, and I'm like, oh, geez, I need a cigarette. Knowing that I would probably benefit from stopping smoking, and I can't breathe because I do smoke. So I'm not going to really change anything about myself right now. This is the well maybe stage. Then we move into the preparation stage, and in this stage we're preparing, we're planning for change. We haven't quite made the change yet, but we're planning for it. So in this stage, I might have, for me in particular, when I was smoking cigarettes, I found out that I was pregnant. I was like, oh no, I got to change. I got to do something. So something's going to happen to push us into that. And so when that happens, we're going to have to start coming up with a plan. Part of that plan is figuring out what your triggers are. So what are my triggers? Where do I mostly want to smoke? When I get into the car, after I eat a meal, after you go to the bathroom, after you have sex, whatever it is. When do you want to smoke? When you're on your break, at work, at lunch, whenever, you're going to have to figure out, where am I most tempted to smoke a cigarette? Or where am I most tempted to use? In what times? And is it negative emotional states? If it's physical, is it in social or positive situations? Or is it when I'm going through a withdrawal or something like that? That's going to be a big piece of this planning process. And we can't plan for everything, but we can plan for emotions. So what am I going to do if I'm in a negative emotional state? Like if I'm angry, or if I'm sad, or if I'm upset, or if I'm having anxiety. What am I going to do in those situations? Once we have a solid plan in place, then we can move forward into the action stage, which is the Nike stage. This is where we're just going to do it. All right? So we're working that plan that we've already set in place. When we see other people smoking or drinking or doing drugs or whatever, then we're going to look at our plan. We're going to call someone. We're going to take a sober partner with us. We're going to avoid or leave the situation. We're going to delay our use, distract ourselves in the moment. We're going to do something to make sure that we're not using. And then we move into, after a while, we're going to move into the maintenance stage. And this is where we've internalized that process, okay? We no longer have to look at our plan. It's second nature for us. We just do it, right? And then Prochaska and DeClimente, they do say that relapse does play a part in this, but it comes around full circle. So where are you in this process? I want you to think about where you're at in the process. Our stage of change can be different for different things. So it doesn't necessarily have to be about drugs and alcohol. We go through the stages of change for every behavior change that we do. So it could be your diet, it could be your exercise, it could be smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, whatever it is. A person can be in different stages of change for each behavior change. So I could be in contemplation for quitting smoking, but in action for losing weight. So I want you to think about your primary substance of abuse. And I want you to think about the definitions that I just gave you and figure out what stage of change that you're actually in. And how might your stage of change be different for another kind of behavior? And then I want you to think about an experience where you were at one stage and then you went back to an earlier stage. So maybe you were in action, but you went back to contemplation. Think about that experience where you moved through all of the stages and you're now in maintenance for a behavior. what happened in each one of those stages? That's what I want you to think about. And then I want you to think about how ready are you for change. If you're not quite at the action stage yet, how ready are you to make that change? If we looked at a ruler and 1 would be low readiness and 10 would be high readiness, where are you? Low readiness is, I don't really want to quit. It's not really a problem for me. Trying to quit would be a waste of my time. And then if you were like moderate ready, between like a 4 and a 7, I'm thinking about quitting. I know it would be good for me. I'm maybe interested in hearing some ways to quit. And then if you were at high readiness, this is, I'm ready to quit and I want to get help using. All right. So I want you to think about, even write it down on a sheet of paper. How ready are you to make that change? And then I want you to think about or write down, what would be the best possible outcome if you did become more ready to change? And what would have to happen in order for you to become more ready to change? Not make the change, but just to become more ready to make that change. What needs to happen? Does it have to be something big? Can it be something small? Whatever. So we talked about the stages of change and how ready are you and where are you at on this stage of change. I really want you to put some thought and effort into this as you're making your behavior changes.